So in this video, I'm going to try and give you a basic idea of how things operate inside the house side of the RV. And so the first things first, we have our batteries here, and there's a little latch here, and you push the silver part up and you pull here, and now you can pull this whole step out. And you can see here's our battery bay down in here, and there's our solar MPPT controller right there. Okay. You're also going to notice I keep an eraser over here. Ben, why is there an eraser over there? There's an eraser over there because of these two contacts. This is the wireless door opening on the remote for the RV. I'll show that to you. So there's the remote, and locked side is the solid side, in case your eyes are as bad as mine, and open side is the open side. And so you can lock and unlock the RV door using this, but these contacts have to be clean, and so you have to clean them, and you just use the eraser, right, and you just rub up and down on the contacts to clean them up. Never use sandpaper for this. If you use sandpaper, you're going to wear through the copper, and then you'll completely disable. So you've got to do both sides, just cleaning, and you'll see all the muck that builds up on the eraser. And so that's to keep the door working reliably wirelessly. Anyway, the first thing we look at is all these switches over here, and they're all labeled. These are all light switches except for this one on the far right. One on the far right is to turn on the power for the TV, because the TV runs off 12 volt now. You no longer need the inverter, which is way down here. So you don't need to run the inverter to run the TV. You just flip this switch on, and now the TV will turn on. I'll show you that in a second. First, I'm going to put this battery bay away, and that just slides into place like that. And there's a little flip of the switch. It's not all the way in. There it goes. And this guy just pulls up and push like that, and now it's secure. Very important if you're ever going to do any maintenance on the battery at all. See here, you can see the TV's on, and then we flip that switch off, and now the TV's off. Don't want to waste power. If you ever do work on the batteries, you've got to disconnect the solar panel, just like that. If you work on the battery with the solar panel connected, you will blow that MPPT controller in the battery bay. So don't do that. That's bad. Up here we got the remotes. This guy is for this stereo system. You should know that when moisture builds up in the RV, this stereo will turn itself on. It's a real pain. And you'll come into the RV and the stereo will be on. The way to stop that from happening is you take that cover off. There's 4 screws. You slide this guy out and you take the fuse out. So sometimes I do that in the winter if it becomes a real pain, because you'll actually hear the stereo on outside. Anyway, for broadcast TV, you've got to turn on this little amplifier. I have a little thing I made on my 3D printer to protect it, but there's a little power button inside here, and see there's an LED. That turns on the amplifier for the antenna. Without the amplifier on, you won't receive any channels. So if you're going crazy, why can't I get channels on my TV? Turn on the amplifier and you'll get channels. Outlet up here doesn't work off the inverter, only works on shore power. The outlets for the inverter, so you got to turn on the inverter down there. I hope you can see that. You turn it on, and then there's down in the back here, I left you this nice cord that's plugged in. I'm not entirely sure where that just suddenly cut off. But anyway, this is being measured at the battery. So at the battery itself, we've got 13.6 volts. And this guy is measuring at the battery itself, and we've got 13.6 volts. This says 13.4 volts because we're losing 0.2 volts in the distance the cable is traveling. The cable for that is traveling all the way from the battery bank all the way up here, and we're losing 0.2 volts. Anyway, So that's the battery button. The tank button tells you what's in your tanks, and it's off by a quarter to a third for every single one of these. You always have more, about a quarter to a third more than what these say. So our freshwater tank, if it said 1/2, we probably really have 3/4. Our LP gas tank right now is almost perfectly full, and yet it says 1/2, which is kind of annoying. Gray waste tank, same deal. If it said 1/2, it's probably only a quarter. Black waste tank, if it said 1/2, it's probably only a quarter. So that's that. Propane heater, you press that here. Electric heater only work. That's the electric water heater, and it will only work when we're plugged into shore power. It will not work off the 12-volt battery. And then here's the water pump, and the water pump you always leave off, always off. You only turn it on when you need it. And what's nice about this rig is there's the water pump switch there, and there's also a water pump switch in the bathroom, so you don't have to yell, honey, turn on the water pump, when you're in the bathroom because you forgot to turn it on out here. And yes, I had an RV years ago where you had to yell. This is a tank heater. Never use it. Unless it's going below 20 degrees at night and you're actively using the black and the gray tank, it shouldn't even be on the RV, in my opinion. But anyway, if you bump it, you can waste a lot of power quickly. So don't bump that switch. The LP valve. So this is on right now because I'm using the refrigerator. I've got the fridge on, and normally this uses 4 amps. So if we had this on, we'd see instead of being a credit of 5.2, this would be a credit of 1.3 because this would use 4 amps. But I installed a little gizmo that reduces the amount of power this uses, so it uses about 10 times less power. So you don't have to worry about the amount of power it uses when you leave it on, which is a good thing. Here are your slide out controls, in and out. Those are pretty obvious. I keep the key in the switch now. I was taking out and putting it in all the time, but that was wearing the switch. If you have small kids in the RV, you want to pull this key out, because that's what it's there for. It's to keep people from getting hurt. But as long as there aren't kids in the RV and you know where your pets are, go ahead and leave it in there. And you've got to turn this on before the slide switches will work. It's a lockout. RV refrigerator. I'm going to turn the light off. And so here's the RV refrigerator. And right now I have it set to gas. Okay, now watch what happens if I flip it. So up here we're using we're getting a credit of 5.5 amps. And now I'm going to flip this fridge to electric. And it's going to switch over. And it's going to switch over. There it goes. So now it just switched over to electric. And now instead of having a credit of 5.5, we're taking out 8.3. So this refrigerator is using around 13 amps all by itself. And that will drain your batteries really quick. So you want to keep the fridge on propane. And come on, propane. And so, the question always is, well, how much propane does it use? And the answer is it uses almost none. Actually, it drains about 20 amps. Now we have a credit of 7.2. Anyway, how much propane does that thing use? Well, let's go look, because it actually uses almost nothing. All it's using is this little teeny pilot. So here's the refrigerator access port, and all you do is you take the I can't see what I'm doing because the light is so bright. You take the edge of the key and you just twist these guys. And this cover comes off, and up inside there's a little teeny flame. And let's see, this cover's hot because I've been running the fridge. If you can see up there, there's just that little blue flame. And listen to the noise it makes, because that's how you check it. it's making the right noise right now, and it's the right color. What's that thing over the flame? That's a flame detector, so it'll automatically shut down and not spew out gas if the flame isn't burning. Okay, so that's your fridge, and it uses very little propane. So don't worry about leaving it on, and don't worry about the amount of propane you're using, because it's almost nothing. Oh boy. All right, let's leave that there. Alrighty then, so let's just talk about these cabinets. And so these first two cabinets, down inside there, you can see it's there's a funny shape in there. Why is that boxed off like that? That's boxed off like that because that's where your inverter is, and you can install a bigger inverter if you want. Okay. Over here, this is a heater vent, and that's your propane detector. Oops. Right here is the propane detector. These things last about 10 years, and this is 10 years old, so it may be on its way out. Every once in a while it chirps, and I ignore it. Well, it just chirps. It doesn't make a lot of beeping, because then I would be dead. So it probably needs to be replaced in the next year or two. Anyway, drawers on ball bearing slides, they work great. Bathroom area. You got to have hot water to take a shower, right? Oh, this is an Oxygenics shower faucet. Anyway, this is a one-take video, so I'm going to make mistakes. Anyway, you want hot water here, right? So you got to come over and you got to flip the LP water heater on. I don't keep this on all the time because it would use a tremendous amount of LP gas. It only takes about 10 minutes to heat up hot water, so you just flip it on right before you want to take a shower, and bam, take a shower. Got a nice little cabinet up here where I designed and 3D printed some little cubbies that help hold stuff. There were no hangers in here. So this thing works on suction, and I put it up 3 years ago, and it's never come down, so it's in good shape. Then what's the water sprayer for? The water sprayer is for when you poop. It helps get all the poop down there. This is a ceramic toilet, so it's really easy to clean, and you just spray after you use the toilet, and you don't need to do any scrubbing. Pretty nice. All your plumbing down here. Extra roll of toilet paper for you just in case. And now we're back here. Let me turn my... Oh, my light is on. Okay, so this is one of the few bulbs in the camper that's not LED. So it uses a fair amount of power. Anyway, who cares? It's in a closet. So you got this nice big huge closet with hangers. You can put hangers in there. There's a nice big drawer down here. Okay, you can put lots of stuff in that drawer. This is access to the heating system. It's actually the air intake for the big heating system in the RV. This RV has 3 heating systems. You've got this big, I think it's like 25,000 BTU system that pumps out hot air through these vents in the floor, and every place is vented. That's one of the things that's really nice about this RV is it distributes the heat really well. But what's awful about this system is that every time it comes on, it wakes you up. And so you definitely don't want to use it at night. It's pretty awful. So I have a supplemental heater over here that works off propane that you can use. You got to plug it in though. And there's a little plug on the bottom over here for this tube that it connects to. Anyway, that'll produce enough heat to keep the RV warm at night. The third heat is through the air conditioning system. Oh, so let me explain this. So on this thermostat, you've got, you flip it that way to turn on the air conditioner. Bam. The air conditioner will only work when you're plugged in. You turn it this way for gas heat, and you turn it all the way this way for electric heat. Now the electric heat is off of the air conditioning as well. And this is the intake for the air conditioning. And then you've got, it's vented all over the place. You've got all these vents all over the RV for air conditioner output and heat output when it's coming from the AC. Now, if you want to get a lot of air up here, you got to close those vents in the back. No big deal. I mentioned that I had some mouse damage, and that mouse damage was inside here. When I first got the RV, the AC wouldn't stay on. So I had to repair some wiring up in there. If you ever have problems with the AC, that's the first place to check. Smoke detector, change the battery every year, or you'll be in the middle of a camping trip and it'll start chirping. You got nice cabinets back here. You have USB ports, okay? And you've got a cigarette light, combination cigarette lighter USB port in the front as well. These shades are frankly a pain in the rear end. This one works great, but a lot of the others no longer go up and down the way they're supposed to, and they can be a pain to put them up and put them down. It is what it is. Here's your TV in the bedroom, and there's a little switch over here to turn the power on to the TV. I have never turned it on. And that remote that I showed you earlier in the video up front works on that TV. You have some nice hooks back here. This hook on the roof, and there's another hook on the roof. There are some fabric thingies up here, so you can separate things. You can add a little privacy back there. Here's your cabinets above the recliner, and these are extra suction cups. Where do these suction cups go to? Well, those suction cups go to the shades up front. Okay, so as these shades age, the suction cups start not sucking so great, and so you can replace them. There's a bunch of replacements there. I gave you these hangers that I use. These are the perfect width for Walmart shoe hangers. So you get those Walmart shoe storage hangers, and you can store them, and they'll hang all the way down. So talking about the battery just for a second, so it can be charged aggressively, or it can be charged like more passively. And so the solar system is charging it, fairly aggressively. But I've got a lithium-ion battery charger in this. They call this a charger converter, because not only does it charge the battery, but it also converts, when you're plugged in, it converts the power to 12 volts. And so I keep this off. I never charge the battery with this charger converter unless I've run really low on the battery and I need to. And then I'll flip that on. So let's say that we were boondocking, like in the middle of nowhere, and we allowed the battery to run down to like 20 amp hours. Well, now we want to recharge the battery with the generator for whatever reason. Maybe the solar panel suddenly stopped working, or maybe it's been cloudy for like 3 weeks. So anyway, we'd start the generator by clicking the start button, but also we've got to go down here and we've got to flip this on in order to turn on the charger part of the charger converter. And now this charger converter is going to send 35 amps into that battery in 1 hour. So if you're down to 20 amp hours here, we can get up to 90 amp hours in that battery in just 2 hours running the generator. But it's a very aggressive charge, and so you really don't want to leave it on. So you charge it for 2 hours, turn off the generator, and turn that thing on. And so if you're at an RV park and you're plugged in, you want to leave that off. The solar produces more than enough power to run the whole 12-volt system. So in general, always just leave that off. This is the 12-volt side of the whole system, and if any fuse is blown, these LEDs will light up to tell you which fuse is blown. Makes it much easier. If you ever need to gain access to the storage that's underneath the bed, this is the bed back here. This bed actually lifts up. You have to push the slide out, and the top of the bed will lift up from the middle, and you can gain access to the water tank and all kinds of stuff. There's also access to all the plumbing right under the floor to the right side of the bed. So that this board that I'm pointing at right now just lifts up, and you've got access to all the plumbing. Easy to work on. When you're storing the camper for a long period of time, you want to leave this window is great because people can't get in it. It's too small for them to get in. But you want to leave that window cracked open just a little bit, and you want to leave the skylight open like just a little bit, and the bathroom skylight open just a little bit, so that you can get some air movement. RVs tend to build up moisture, and moisture causes all kinds of problems. I actually had to re-glue a couple of years ago. I had to re-glue the inside of this door back. It was a real pain, but it looks nice now and it works great. So you got to watch out for moisture. That's one thing that stove, this guy will produce a lot of moisture, especially if it's left on overnight. You'll leave that stove on overnight, and then you'll get ready to leave in the morning, and you take off these front windshield covers, and the windshield will be like solid water. And so between the humans and that stove, it builds up a lot of moisture in here. You want to be aware of it. When you're storing the RV, also you want to keep this bubbly reflectix in the skylight. General rule is keep the UV out. So when you're in storage, you want all the shades closed, even the shade on the door closed, because the ultraviolet is going to ruin the interior. Notice all these guys in the back are closed. That back window is your emergency exit. There are two little flippers on it that open it up in an emergency, and you can get out. I can't think of anything more that I need to tell you on the interior. So, Mercedes-Benz builds one hell of a vehicle. Winnebago did a great job on the house side. This is the chassis side. On your radio, I left you this nice little Bluetooth receiver. You can connect your phone to it, so you can play music from your phone or podcasts or whatever through the main stereo system. It's really nice. So I have a Scan Gauge 2 connected to the camper, and that's staying with it too. And Scan Gauge 2 allows you to monitor the engine, transmission, just about any system, the emission system, just about any system in the camper. And so if you ever get an error message, you can look it up. You can look up the code on the Scan Gauge 2 and then search for the error message on the web, and it'll tell you exactly what's wrong. The most important thing to remember is that this RV was built on a commercial truck platform. Commercial trucks are probably the most abused vehicles in the world. And so panicking when you get an error code is a mistake. The error code is informative. It doesn't mean panic. It does mean look up what the error code means. Oh, look, my Bluetooth headset. I was looking for that. So when you get an error code, look up what it is and figure out what's going on and see if it's an emergency. You go to an RV dealer in the summertime. You go to a Mercedes-Benz dealer in the summertime, and their parking lot looks like a vacation graveyard. I mean, the RVs are there and they wait forever. And chances are, whatever's wrong is minor, and you can continue your journey. So don't panic on that stuff. So here's your fuel filler door, and you'll notice the nice benefit. Look at that poop. Damn birds. The nice feature of this camper is that it unlocks the moment you open your door. Okay? And the strap to this busted, you just put it down on the running board down there while you're fueling. No big deal. Or get a new strap when you want to. This uses diesel. I believe it has a 26-gallon tank. When you're fueling, you've got to be careful. If you put in regular fuel, you will blow the engine, and it blows in seconds. There's no warning. It just goes boom, and it stops working, and you have to replace the engine. So you need to be very careful that you're putting in diesel. Diesel is always on a green. It's got a green handle. If that handle's not green, you're putting in something that's wrong. Unless you're at a BP. At a BP, all the handles are green. So don't go to BP. Go to other gas stations where the handles are green for diesel. I'll double check. I'll say diesel 3 times when I'm going to pump. You know, when I pick up the pump, I'll say diesel. When I put it in there, I'm going to say diesel. And then when I hit the pump to tell it to start pumping, I say diesel again. Diesel, diesel, diesel. And that just reminds me, because it's very bad when you don't put in diesel. So here's your business area of the RV, and we got these. I put on these little clips because I can't stand holding doors open. But you got to remember, if you open the doors and then you go and pull the slide out, you're gonna rip those little clips off. So don't open the slide out when these things are open. And so here's your business end of the RV, and you've got a dump hose in there. Anyway, this is the generator power connection, and the most common mistake in the world is to be plugged into shore power at a campground and not plug this back in when you put it away. So you put it away, you just throw it in there, it's just in there, and then you stop for lunch and you turn on the air conditioning and you start the generator and the air conditioning won't turn on, and you're like, what the hell, this RV's busted, blah blah blah. No, you didn't plug that plug in. Without that plug plugged in, the air conditioning will never work. So the best habit is to always just plug it in every time you open it up. There's your converter to convert 15 amp service over to 30 amp service. This is a really short hose. It's the sort of hose that originally came with the RV. I would not use it except in an emergency, because you need to get too close. You need to get too close to the dump station. That hose doesn't pull out very far. Here's your propane fill. You got to turn it off before they fill it. Propane fill. Sorry, I can't see the phone one. Yep, propane fill right here. You got to turn it off before you fill it. And here's where you dump your black water tank. That cover twists off, and you pull that lever. You'd always dump the black water tank first. There it is right there. The gray water tank is back behind the axle. And so to dump the gray water tank, you got to come back here, and you got to pull this lever that's on the back bumper. I hope you can see that because it's so bright here. I can't. This lever right here. You pull that down, and then you open up. Oh, I don't have the right key. So let's go get the right key. I keep the RV keys on a little hook right next to the doorway, because that's where you need them. And so we can grab those keys and come back over here. And the key for this outside shower is this guy. It's got whatever the bumps on it on both sides. And in and turn and open sesame. It's got another one of those clips to hold it open like that, and you can just let the fresh water, the outdoor shower thing just drop. And so right here there's a diagram. It says waste pump, water pump. And so this button is going to turn on the water pump so you can take a shower outside. This pump turns on the waste pump, okay? And it actually doesn't turn on pushing it this way. It turns on pushing it this way. Hear that noise? if you're at a dump station near a highway, you're never going to hear it. Anyway, this little stick is in here to just, push it down and you shove that stick behind there, and that'll keep it pumping so you can go over here and monitor whether material is coming out. Now, you don't want to leave that pump running for 20 minutes. Leaving it running for 3 or 4 minutes is just fine. But you don't want it running without fluid going through it for like 20 minutes. So you don't walk away and go have lunch. You monitor, okay? If that pump doesn't have liquid in it for like 20-30 minutes, it's gonna burn itself out. So you want to monitor it, and it'll last forever. Hopefully it'll last forever. Another thing to remember here is if you start thinking you're losing water and you hear the water pump like going on its own, one of the things it could be is that one of these guys isn't closed. Very common error is to leave one of these faucets open and water will be dripping from the RV and you'll be like, oh my God, I have a leak. No, you don't have a leak. You forgot to turn the darn thing off. So always double check that it's off. Here's your rear cargo. It's not accessible from inside unless you lift the bed up and have the slide out. And so realistically, it's not accessible from inside at all. And so here's your water tank. Some people mark the edge of their water tank so that they really know how full it is. I don't. 22 gallons. It's a lot of water for one person. It's about 3 to 4 days water for 2 people. Over here, come on. This is not the easiest thing to pull out, but it does pull out. And so over here is access to your plumbing from outside. This guy right here will allow you to run that red gross stuff into your plumbing system. We don't do that. We use air. And this is your main drain. So this will drain the water tank. I'm going to leave that open for when I get to winterizing. Here's your jack. If you put a bike rack on this, like make sure you take the bikes off the bike rack before you pull the slide out, because you will bend the bike rack. Don't ask me how I know. So let's talk about the awning. Awnings are like a mixed blessing. They're wonderful to have when it's sunny out and you want some shade, but they can be a disaster on the road. And they're easy to damage. And so the general rule of thumb is that the awning is in if nobody's near the RV. So if you go out for a hike, you pull in that awning. But if you're going to hang out under it, yeah, go ahead and put it out. And I'm going to put it out a little way and show you. So the switch for the awning is right here. It's got in and out, and obviously out is out. So we're going to put it out, and you can see the awning is starting to go out here. And so one thing you got to remember is that it doesn't want this door holder to be here while it's going out. So you've got to hold the door while you're putting out the awning. Okay? Don't ask me how that scratch got there. But you got to hold that door while you're putting out the awning. Okay? Now here's the thing. If you can actually pull the awning back in backwards. If you put it all the way out and then you hit out to bring it back in again, you can actually bring it in upside down, which you don't want to do, okay? So if something's wrong, if you bring it in and for whatever reason you can't like get it closed or something, maybe you did that. So anyway, you want to bring it all the way out again and then bring it in using the in button. So I'm going to bring it in. And now what I want you to see, boy, it's bright out here. It's hard for me to see. But I want you to see how these brackets try to start closing. Okay? And when we get to this point, okay, now we want to manually make sure that they're closing straight. And so I'm just going to push them in a little bit. And I just want to make sure that they're closing right. Because if they don't, the awning could look like it's closed and it's not completely closed. And now we just bring it in with little tidbits, and I'm listening for it. You can actually hear it tightening up, and I'm going to give it a bang. And I'm going to go to the front one and give it a bang. It's closed. It's in good shape, okay? That is not going to come out on the highway. And that's what you want to avoid at all costs. I had that happen to me in Arizona, and it was no fun at all. So here's the generator bay, and you can open that thing up and you can start the generator from outside and stuff. You can check the oil, change the oil, what have you. Very, very little used. 3.6 kilowatts is more than enough energy to run both the air conditioning and the microwave at the same time. And here's the last bay here. And that's got some storage. And then that's got the DEF tank, diesel exhaust fluid. And so the first time you go to put in diesel exhaust fluid, you're going to go a little bit nuts. And that's normal, because the handle up here, it just turns. It just turns. It doesn't open. And that's because you need this stinking tool, which I have tried several times to get an extra one of. You got to open the passenger side door. You got to open the toolkit. I'm going to open the toolkit using the side of a key, same way I open the fridge thing. And right in here, there's this tool. It says DEF, diesel exhaust fluid. You got to take this stupid thing. This is probably, I can't see if I'm showing you what this, there it is. This is the tool to open that stinking cap. So anyway, got to get down here. And then let's turn on our light. Well, no, I don't. Well, let's turn it on just in case. There we go. And so this cap turns. It lifts up. The very top of the cap lifts up and turns. And then you put this mysteriously magical special tool in here, right? And I have no idea. Do they think kids are going to come in here and try and drink this stuff? You got me. So I have no idea why they require this special tool, but they do. And so there it is. You've got a really big tank in this vehicle, and I don't recommend leaving it full over the winter. Maybe 1/3 to 2/3 full. Mercedes says you can leave it full over the winter. I think that's a mistake. Because when it's mostly water, diesel exhaust fluid is a mixture of water and ammonia, and when water freezes, it expands, and so I'd be worried about it cracking the tank. Mercedes says that won't happen, but anyway, inside this little bay, you will find a little hand pump for pumping in the fluid. There's also a backup. It screws on the cap of your diesel exhaust fluid, and so you can pour it in. I prefer using the pump. It's less messy. See all this white junk? There's white stuff inside the tube, and the white stuff looks like this. Can you see it? There we go, overexposed. That's just ammonia that's dried up. And as soon as you even touch the slightest amount of water to that, it'll instantly mix with water. So you don't have to worry about that stuff going into the tank. The moment it mixes with water, it will become diesel exhaust fluid again. There's a nice little blanket in there. There's some levelers in there for you. And there's some wheel chocks. If I'm anywhere near a hill, I will always chalk the wheels, just in case. And let's talk about leveling the RV for a second, because a lot of people think that the three-way fridge, that the RV has to be perfectly level for the three-way fridge to work properly, and that's just not true. The three-way fridge works fine. If you're comfortable in the RV walking around and sleeping, the fridge will be comfortable too. It's when the angle is so bad that you're not comfortable walking in the RV that the fridge needs to be turned off. And it literally needs to be turned off. You can't just switch it over to electric. The reason, this is a whole ammonia system, and if the RV is way off level, you can destroy the ammonia system. So don't take a chance. If you're parked for a long time, I mean hours, and you're at a really bad angle, turn the fridge off. When I say real bad angle, I mean a pretty steep hill where you don't want to be walking up and down the aisle, where you wouldn't want to use the toilet. How about that? I don't know. And so you put the diesel exhaust fluid tool back in there, and then you put this cover back on, and you got to make sure it gets in properly at the top, and then you can just turn and twist, and it'll be in there, and we're done. Hey, you thought where I showed you the fuse box before was all the fuses? It is not. There's a whole other set of fuses up here. So if you have a problem and you can't resolve it with the fuses on the house side, you got to come up under this seat and check these fuses. And they're just push button fuses. You just push them back in to reset them. If a fuse is blown, though, there's usually another reason why. So you need to find out. Tires. The front tires are brandy new. Well, not brandy new. I replaced them last year. They're in really good shape. Michelin Defenders. They've been really good tires. I was planning on replacing the rear tires next year, except with the pandemic now, I might wait another year. But these tires are now going on 10 years, so it's recommended to replace them. They still probably have between 5,000 and 10,000 miles left on them. So you'll notice, you'll notice that on the front tire, we've got this beautiful chrome dress-up hubcap thing on it. But on the dualies, that chrome thing is not there, and it's not there for a reason. Reason number one is they fall off like crazy on these rear dualies. Reason number two is they make it almost impossible to check the tire pressure. So when you're going to leave on a long trip, you've got to come over here and check the tire pressure, and so you've got to find the valves. And here's one valve in here, and the other valve is always exactly opposite. So here's the other valve up here, and I got to tell you, adding air, removing air, never remove air because you may get debris in the valve. But adding air is a pain. Just checking the tire pressure is a pain. So I was going to put on, when I changed these tires, I was going to put on a product called Cat's Eye that tells you at a glance if the pressure is right. And it also makes sure the pressure stays equal between the two dualies. So I was going to put that on, and I would never put the hubcap back on. They're just, they make the wheel look a little prettier, but who cares? Anyway, checking the pressure on the front tire is really easy. You can see there it is right there, easy as pie. But the other ones, not so much, not very much fun. So let's talk about winterizing, and I prefer to use a compressor to winterize. You can use that red stuff, and you can feed it in through this line, but then you got to get that red stuff out, and it's awful. It tastes terrible. So I prefer to use compressed air, and you need to get a fitting like this. It plugs right in. You screw it in here, and then you're going to plug it into your air compressor. But before you plug it into your air compressor, you just want to crack one of the lines open so that you don't build up too much pressure in the lines. If you build up too much pressure in the lines, some of the shark bite connections are going to come off, and you'll have to troubleshoot that. But that's not that big a deal. But You want to set your pressure between 20 and 30 pounds, and you want to blow out these lines one at a time. Don't forget to blow out the shower line too. So you're going to run inside and open faucets and listen until all the air is out of the system. Because we're using air and we're not using the red stuff, we don't have to do the water heater bypass, which is under the sink and is a total pain in the rear end to access. So the other thing you need to remember, first of all, you're going to put red stuff down every drain inside. But the other thing you're going to have to do when the system is not pressurized is you're going to pull this plug right here and let the water empty out of this water tank. There's about 8 gallons of water in there, so it's going to make a mess. So winterizing, you're going to pressurize it up. You're going to empty, well, before you pressurize it up, empty this water tank and put that plug back in. And then you run the air through. You need to get it out of both the hot and the cold side, you know. So you're going to let that water run. You're going to go cold. You're going to go hot as you can, as cold, all the hot that you can and all the cold that you can. Until you're hearing nothing but air coming out. Same thing in the bathroom. The toilet doesn't have a reservoir, but you still need to hold down that toilet pedal, you know, until you hear nothing but air coming out. Same with the sprayer. You need to hold down the sprayer until you hear nothing but air. And this guy too. Last step of winterizing, once you're hearing air everywhere, is to pour some of that red stuff into each drain, especially the shower. Oh, don't forget to blow out the shower too. You got to blow out the shower, and then you pour that red stuff in every drain. Bloop, 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 bloop. You don't need it in the toilet because the toilet goes straight into the black water tank, so you know it doesn't really matter. But, you know, speaking of red stuff and the gray tank, you know, you want to pour a significant amount of that red stuff so it gets into the gray tank, which is back under the bed somewhere down there. Because what you want to do also is run the pump. You know, we want that red stuff to make it all the way to the pump. And so what you want to do is dump a lot of it down those drains and then come out here and turn that, open the dump drain and turn that pump on and wait until you see red coming out of the dump. And that way you know for a fact that you've got that red stuff in the pump. And speaking of pumps, there's one other place you need to go to. On top of the water pump, just, let me get something I can, just, whoa, whoopsie, let's see if I can get it in the, just to the right, there's a little screen inside a clear dome. You want to take that off and dump it, okay? Take it off and dump it. Because that'll still have some water in it, and that could crack over the winter, so, and yeah, I said you dump the main tank right there with that blue handle. You push it just down to the floor. Boom. You want to do that before you start winterizing, and it's just going to dump water out the bottom. As a general rule, I keep the water tank full. You probably should too. It keeps things from growing in it. I'm on city water here though. If you're on well water, you might want to add just a tiny amount of chlorine to it. I don't know. I don't know what recommendations are on that. Because when my water comes out of the tap, it's got some chlorine in it, and that keeps stuff from growing. So, but I would recommend keeping the tank full for a lot of reasons. One reason is just to reduce the likelihood of things growing in there, and the other is you never know when you need to leave in an emergency. And you don't want to be hanging around filling that water tank. You want to be on the road leaving. And if it's full, you're ready to go. You're ready to rock and roll. So when you de-winterize, because you blew out with air, dewinterization is like really easy. All you're going to do is fill the water tank, and you're pretty much ready to go as far as the plumbing is concerned. As far as appliances are concerned, though, that's a whole different ballgame. You definitely want to start up the refrigerator, and you want to verify that you've got that nice blue flame in there. And the other thing you want to do is verify that it's getting cold, and that it's getting cold evenly. And so you want to come in here and open the fridge, and you want to feel these fins. Now, this fridge has been on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I can already feel the cold in it. But it's these guys on the ends. You want to make sure they're nice and chilly. It'll always be chilly right in the middle, but these guys on the ends get cold last, and you should feel a chill. I can actually even see some frost already building up on the tops of these fins. And so your refrigerator is operating optimally when you've got almost even cooling, and you'll see frost build up on the very tips going the whole way across. That's what you're looking for. If it's not doing that, there's probably a bug nest in it. And the bugs love the heater, the water heater, and the refrigerator. They absolutely adore the refrigerator. And so you've got to clean the burner. I've got another video on cleaning the burner and on cleaning the chimney. If your water heater should make a specific sound when it comes on. It should make this. It almost sounds like a jet flying over, but quieter. And if it's not making that noise, and if it's producing soot, if soot is coming out this chimney, you've got a bug's nest in this tube. Okay, and you just take the air compressor and blow that tube out. Very simple. There's a screw up here that comes off, and you can rotate this and blow it right out. Muy fácil, very easy. I never use this guy. It's a pain. Okay. The other place where bugs will build their nests is in the main heater. And so this main heater is huge. It makes a lot of noise, but bugs will build their nests in here. Some people put little screens over them. I never run the heater, so I've never messed around with that, but I'll bet you I wouldn't be surprised if there's a spider's web in there. So you might want to run your air compressor through there if you think you're going to use the main heater. The other thing that you can do to try and keep spiders from even messing around with your rig to begin with is to just spray the inside of these panels with a little bit of bug spray. Just spray a little bit of bug spray on there before you put them back, and the spiders will have a lot less interest. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about getting ready to leave. And leaving is really important. Checking things is really important before you leave. Not only am I looking down at tires, but I'm looking up at awnings to make sure things are where they're supposed to be. Okay, I'm gonna look at this slide out and make sure I'm gonna make sure this gap is flush against the side of the RV. If it's sticking out, a quarter of an inch, something's wrong, and I got to go in and fix it. I'm looking at the bulge on the bottom of the tire. Is it normal? And that's a normal bulge right there. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to make sure these guys are closed and that the handles are stored. Okay, an unstored handle looks like that, right? I want those handles in. Oops. There we go. I want to make sure these latches are in. The worst thing in the world you can do is have one of these latches out, like this one, and clip somebody that's walking across a crosswalk. That will be a lawsuit. That would not be pretty. So make sure they're pushed in. You want to make sure everything's closed. I'm looking up and I'm looking down. Okay, make sure the bulge is normal. One very important thing to do is to take a walk back a ways behind the RV and then get down. And look at those dualies, okay? You want to make sure the bulges on the bottom of the dualies are even on all four. If they're not, we need to check our tire pressure. Okay, so that's a very important check. We're making sure that this bay is closed and that it's not going to pull open. We're checking the gap over here, and it's just fine, it's good. Coming around, we're making sure that when that awning pulled in from the side, that it went in. We're gonna tap our awning supports. Make sure that they're in. We're gonna roll down here. This guy, this is the cover for the fridge. I wanna make for damn sure that that's not gonna fly off. I give it a little tug, not a hard tug, just a little tug, okay? Inspect the tire, okay? Make sure these doors are nicely closed, okay? And check the front tire. And now I want to look at that awning. This guy's, is he in? Yep, he's in, he's all set, okay? My step is still out, okay? Now I want to start the engine, and I want to listen for that step going in. And that's the last step, and we're pretty much ready to go. The other thing that I do at the very beginning, before I start driving down the road, is I will do a sudden stop and see what moves inside. Did you hear that step pull in? It makes a pretty, I'll show it to you. It makes a pretty loud noise when it pulls in, and so you can be pretty sure that it has gone in. But it'll come out when I open the door. There's a little sensor in here, and so when I open the door, out it comes. When I close the door, in it goes. Okay? I replaced that step motor 2 years ago, so it should be good for about 6 more years, and then you'll have to replace it. You can check your oil. It's a diesel. That oil's going to be black. Even when it's brand new, it's going to be black. The last thing I want to show you about all this startup is the emergency brake. Let me turn the light on. So the emergency brake is between the two front seats, and I can't tell if you're seeing this or not. So the emergency brake is this lever right here, and to set it, you just pull it up. To release it, you have to press this button while pulling up. Okay, so again, to set it, you just pull it up. This is a European style emergency brake, okay, and a lot of people can't unset them. It pushes down so you can rotate this chair with the emergency brake set. But to release it, you've got to press the button down and pull up. And now it's released, okay? Press the button down, pull up, all the way down, and now it's released. One more time. Press the button, pull up, hold the button down, and set it down. And now it's released.